I've been saying this whole time for my So What Now series that I couldn't save any of the Instagram lives. Look, even, you see me, look, I tried. But my friend came through and screen recorded it for me, so I don't even need to recap this one. I'm just gonna put this one in its entirety. Here we go. I'm home alone, so what now? Sex in isolation. Drop some hearts in here for Raquel Savage. You know what I'm saying? He's a savage. How many times have you heard that?
Actually, not often.
I love it. So, just so you guys, I'm going to give you a little context. So, Raquel Savage, she's the sex coach, and definitely everything sex. Raquel, I can't even repeat sometimes what she tells me. I'm like, can you just write it and say it again? I don't even know how to repeat what you said, but she has a really cool blend of what I feel like is really technical academic knowledge paired with very cool real life experiences. And so although she is called the sex coach, she has a master's in counseling, marriage and family therapy. Raquel facilitates sex and trauma coaching sessions. So like if that's something that you have personally experienced after our conversation, maybe you want to follow up, I'll have Raquel drop her links in here. I'll put them in my stories as well. If you feel like you need any sex and trauma coaching, she does that. And she also does Savage Sex Ed, which includes interactive workshops, which can be held privately or publicly, and they range from topics like fetishes, ethical non-monogamy, and orgasm. And I could that classify as the workshop you did for me and my friends?
That is exactly what that was.
Okay, because we did a workshop on oral sex, right?
Yeah. It was like anatomy and I think like ethical non-monogamy.
Ethical non-monogamy.
Yeah.
We actually, now that you say that again, I'm like, I would love to have a whole other conversation about that. But that's such a rich topic that I have like, I don't know. I feel like I'm interested in it, but I don't know my way around it yet. So
yeah.
It's like,
yeah, I think that this is being saved for anybody who's asking. Let's wait for her. Let's wait for her to come back. All right.
that was so strange. It just said, thanks for coming to Raquel Savage's live. And then I still saw myself talking. I was like, wait a minute, is this a multiple dimension reality? What's happening? But yes, you did a session for my friends and I, and it was so fun and informative. So, okay. Did I miss anything in your intro, Raquel?
No, I was gonna say that's like all of the things.
Okay.
Like a lot of the things for sure, yeah.
And also too, guys, at the end, I'm just gonna say here, so just as a reminder, Raquel has OnlyFans and Patreon. I'm a patron, and then I'm about to join her OnlyFans too. So if you want to support sex workers or support, do you call it? I think you do identify as a sex worker. Yes,
I do.
Support women who are out here making money in an ethical way that works for them. I do. So okay, I had a lot of great questions. So today, we're gonna talk about I'm home alone. So what now? Sex in isolation. So I want to say, if you're watching this, that I want to start and anchor this conversation. I always speak to my supporters, like the women who show up for me. And a lot of women that I hear that need support in this topic right now are not coupled. Like, I think we can talk. I have actually separated some questions. I have a few questions that relate to couples, but I really want to start with just you as and mostly women. If there's men on here, yes, actually, you or men, you should be on here and listen to the whole conversation because you're gonna learn too. But for all of my women that are solo during this time, I really am gonna send you some love, and that's what we gonna work on you guys. You know what I'm saying at the beginning, because like a lot of women was like Sheila. So this is the first question. I thought this was a funny question. Raquel Savage, somebody asked, so what's more dangerous right now, going to the grocery store or getting dick?
Yeah. I will say that I have thought quite often about what is the orgasm worth? Is it worth getting corona possibly? No, for me it's not. But I think that's a really real ass question, because I feel like what it really comes down to is like people are weighing how much connectedness and intimacy are important and a necessity in a dire situation. It's like, yes, I need to go eat and get food, and also I need intimacy and human connection. So I think like it's like a jokey question, right? But the basis of that makes total sense.
But no, I thought the way she phrased it was so well. I was like, you're right. I can only imagine what it would be like dating during this time. So let's say that, let me not start there. I'm going to start from toys.
Yeah.
So there was a few women who wrote, I am new to using toys, but I'd like to try. I am kind of new to the whole self-pleasure thing. So do you have any tips for women who want to be more versed in self-pleasure, and if there's any toys you recommend? Or maybe you don't recommend using toys, I don't know.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I feel like for folks who are thinking about like masturbation during this time, there's like a spectrum of like where everybody falls on that. There are people who are like hardcore masturbators like me, who is like, I'm not rubbing one out manually at this point, it's toys only. But then there are folks who are kind of on the other side of that, who perhaps have never masturbated, right? Or who feel like uncomfortable with their body, or are unsure of where to start. So there's kind of like a wide variety of folks to consider on here. And I think for most people, it's just thinking about what works for you and like what's going to make you feel comfortable. And also thinking about like, I know this might sound silly, but what is the goal or intention behind the masturbation? You know what I mean? Or self-love and pleasure. Because it might be as simple as like having an orgasm so it can help you feel less stressed and go to sleep. Or it can be like, an activity of like creating intimacy where there otherwise is no partnered intimacy. You know what I mean? So I think that that's things to consider too.
Okay.
I think do you have a question, or you have to say something?
I'm writing little takeaways that I'm going to post later. So what you're saying, so for people who are like, I want to masturbate, or I'm new to masturbation, start with what's your intention, which is great. That like really aligns with what I say. But what's your intention? Is it, I want to get to know myself more? I just simply need an orgasm right now just because I want to experience some type of intimacy, even though I am here without a partner. So maybe that's a good place to start. And then, so Raquel, what do you say? Are you a person they should start with no toys and just get to know themselves, or can you recommend any toys for beginners?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that this is a good time that you actually can get back to basics and perhaps not use any toys, right? Like full disclosure, like the other day I like used my shower to masturbate, which I haven't done since I was in like middle school. So I feel like you can get super creative, and it was amazing, but I'm thinking about folks who maybe don't have access, right, to be able to buy toys right now, or who have things and don't have these already in their home. You can literally just like take the time to rub one out and just kind of get to know your body and yourself. And perhaps it doesn't have to be orgasm driven, right? It doesn't have to be goal oriented. It can just be like a moment to have some intimacy with yourself. And then you can get creative, right, and do maybe some old shit that you used to do, or use things around the house. And then also, I think in terms of like toys, I love the idea of using toys, whether that be toys that you already have or purchasing some toys. And I think that a company that I would suggest that has really great sex positive, gender neutral toys is Unbound Babes. They have.
Are you saying Unbound?
Yeah, Unbound, Unbound, Babes. They have so many wonderful toys on a spectrum of so many like different options in terms of like beginner versus advanced. And they also have like like I said, gender neutral stuff. They have partner and solo stuff. I mean, they have just like the gamut of anything coming like having to do with pleasure and sex. So that's who I would kind of suggest around toys if that's where you're leaning.
Okay. I don't know why I can't pin comments, but whatever. I'll just put it there. Sorry. I hope that you can see it. They haven't been letting me pin comments lately, but unbound ways. That's great. I would say too, to add a spiritual slant to that, don't overcomplicate it and be like, well, what do I pick? What do I pick? What do I know? I would say, if it was me, I would really just take a deep breath and really don't, without any self-judgment, anytime we're talking about sex, especially with women, shame comes up so quickly.
Yes.
Like, as soon as I bring up the word sex, shame is right there. Like, hey girl, what's up?
Right.
So there's a lot of shame around sex, and sometimes the shame is the barrier between you and pleasure. So if you just don't judge yourself and see what piques your interest. Like, look at the side and just
That's a good point.
What pops out to you. And don't worry about what anyone else's opinion of that might be. This is really about you exploring your own pleasure, because we all deserve pleasure. And also, Narissa, she said this once, I never forget it, that a man or anyone, a man, a woman, a toy, they're all tools.
Right.
For you to achieve an orgasm. Nobody gives you an orgasm. You give yourself an orgasm. So in the same way, you want to learn a partner and make so that the experience gets you to the orgasm in the way that you want. It starts with you doing that on your own, I think.
Yeah, and I also think like two things to think about before you even kind of get into this activity of doing this self-pleasure thing. If you are someone who does have shame, or any kind of feelings around self-love, intimacy, masturbation, whatever, I think this is also a good opportunity to just kind of like meditate on that and write about that before you just like dive into rubbing one out. Maybe just take some time to reflect on that and see what comes up for you. I know people have different tools to do introspection, right? For me, it's like writing. So I think that's a good thing too. I know when I'm like talking to my clients, that's where I like to start with them. Instead of being like, go play with yourself right now. It's like, let's even think about this first. Like, what comes up for you in your body when you think about masturbation? Is it shame? Where do you carry that shame? What's the internal voice? What are the messages and meanings you assign to that? Where did you learn that from? Like, I think that's a good place to start as well. And then I also want to say, it's also super okay if you're not like horny right now. We are moving from like stress and survival mode. So a lot of the kind of things that we typically are doing are just not happening. And it's super okay if people are like, and I think about not even just sex related, but like some of the typical behaviors we do, which are around self-care and being our best self, we're regressing because we're moving from eat, sleep, shit. Like, we're not thinking about like, oh, how can I be my most whatever? No, we're literally survival stress mode. So it's also okay if you're not horny. Like, if you're not in the mood to be doing this, that's okay too. And don't beat yourself up. And I think specifically more around like couples, right, who are like quarantined together, and it's like y'all think y'all should be having a lot of sex and you're not. And that could be a reason why. No, you're not going to be horny when your body is in survival mode. Like,
right. That actually went right up to the next question, which was, somebody said, my sex drive is at an all-time low. I don't even feel the urge to pleasure myself. Help.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that a couple of things, right? So I think like pop culture wise, one of the things that's coming out of this like quarantine is like, masturbate and have sex with your partner, and this is good time to be this and that. This is not that. Like, this is not a vacation where you have this creative energy to be intimate and spiritual and whatever. This is, again, functioning from like survival mode. So you need not beat yourself up about the fact that perhaps you're not feeling, even if you're like desiring connectedness and intimacy, that you can't muster up the energy to do it. You know what I mean? It makes total sense. So you need not beat yourself up about that, whether that be partnered or if you're, isolated by yourself. So yeah, I feel like start there. Is think about like, and even, if people want to do some like reading on what kind of happens in your body and your brain when we're functioning from this like fight or flight place. I think about like
The Body Has a Memory. Is that the name of that book?
Yeah, so there's The Body Keeps the Score and The Body Keeps the Score. Our two trauma books, yeah, which are super useful just to like learn about trauma, right? Because I think about like, when you get nervous, right, all of a sudden you have bubble guts, your eyes dilate, your mouth gets dry, and those are all very specific reasons. It's because your digestion stopped. It's because your eyes are trying to help you focus so you can, respond to whatever the threat is. You're literally like chemically moving from this place that does not arouse you. Like, it makes total sense why you're not horny and perhaps not having the energy for whether that is
Oh,
social
that's
stuff or
right, Raquel. I'm on your live. That's why I can't pin and delete people. Okay, I got it. Yes. Yeah. Someone said, sorry, sis, I'm being creative as hell and have a lot of sex.
And that's fine too, right?
Yeah.
And then everyone is kind of experiencing this differently, right? There are some folks who are really like, who have been perhaps in their 9 to 5 and are now having this opportunity to be at home and focus more on their self-care activities and focus more on intimacy. And then there's other people who are like, this is just completely obliterating their sense of normalcy. And so anywhere you fall on that is fine.
Right. I think that something to keep in mind too is if anyone has had experience with trauma, like my therapist was breaking this down, and I thought this was such a good, it's a missing piece of the conversation. I feel that, and in healing trauma, you need agency. So let's say if you've had physical trauma, that means where somebody is hurting your body in a way that you can't control. What helps you on the path to healing is feeling that you do have control over my body. I can choose how I interact with my body. My body is safe. I can choose what I want to do when I want to do. We did not choose this. There's no agency in here for us. So that is not a container for healing and like a vacation. It's not just like we're at home chilling. I'm like, it's great. We're at home. I love it. Like, we are being forced. So if you have any interaction with trauma in your past, it's going to come up right now because that is the same, that's the same, you know, that chemical impulse in your brain is responding the same to this feeling of being forced. And so I think that a lot of us are really brilliant and humans are so resilient. We're making the best of it. But I just wanted to put that out there in case, you know, to take some pressure off of yourself, because some of us are not feeling sexual right now. Right. And so what ways, so if I'm solo, right, Raquel, help me out. Let's say I'm solo. I was dating before Corona. I was out here dating. I was on Tinder. I was doing my vibe. What do I do now?
In terms of dating specifically?
Yeah, like, so is there any other way? Like, is there anything I don't know? Is there any cool shit happening? Like, what do we do now if we're like, if we want to maintain some type of connection with people? And then my next question will be about FaceTime and maybe some phone sex tips.
Yeah, I think this kind of requires a lot of energy, which we kind of already touched on. A lot of us don't have. And it also takes being realistic about what works for you. So I'm thinking about myself, for instance, where like my partner and I, we're long distance, and my like love language is physical touch. So there's almost nothing that we can do in this time that's really going to fill that void or feel like my needs are being fulfilled. And I have to just be realistic about that and be realistic about my asks of my partner, because it doesn't matter how much gifts or quality time or FaceTime we're being creative. It's like, I need a hug. And I can't.
Right. Summer Walker voice.
Right. So it's like, I think part of it is like the energy part, like how much energy are you willing to invest in it or not? And then thinking about being realistic about what can we actually have access to right now during these times. With that said, you super can do things. They just don't perhaps involve actually having physical contact with people. So you can still be on Tinder. You can still be on whatever your dating apps are. It's just going to be restricted to sexting and FaceTime sex and kind of like digital type of stuff.
Okay, so give me some tips, because you're lit in this area and you have all the confidence that I aspire to in this area. So give me, because I get all shy on FaceTime and stuff sometimes. Can you give us some tips for either, I would say phone sex, but I feel like most people are doing videos, right? Chats up now, they would use video.
Well, yeah, so I think there's like lots of options, right? You can do like sexting, right? Which is just like dirty talking, which I find, specifically, we were talking a little bit about like trauma earlier. I find that with people who have experience with trauma, that's a really great tool, whether we're in quarantine or not, because it's really controlled, right? You have the opportunity to write out your thoughts, delete it, change it, and be like, okay, I feel good about this, and then send it. And then you also have the opportunity in the moment to say, I don't really like that, without it having this immediate like kind of physical risk of danger. So I think that sexting is like a really kind of cool, safe, creative way to start just exploring your sexuality in general. And then,
do you have a tip for sexting for I'm one of those people who has trouble. I'm so talkative. All I do is talk. Yeah. But when it comes to articulating sexually what I want, sometimes I'm like a little shy. you
Yeah.
know, from this whole like the lineage of like women, you know what I'm saying? Oh, we're just pure and I'm a good one.
Yeah.
And so like, do you have any tips for us? Like, okay, let's say you're a woman and you're in this situation and you're like, all right, so I'm gonna be sexting more, I'm gonna be, you know, on FaceTime more, but where do I get the, you know, how do you speak up? How do you find your voice? Like, what are some
Yeah.
baby steps?
Yeah. So two things, right? I think depending on who your partner is, or even maybe not a partner, maybe it's casual. I think it's okay to just like very explicitly say like I'm shy or like I'm a little bit awkward. Is that cool? Because then it's like you can lean into that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
I never tell people like try to be a fucking sex vixen, you know, whatever. Like if you're gonna be awkward and clammy, just be awkward and clammy and make that your thing. Like that's okay, whether that be digital or in person. You know what I mean? Like own that until maybe it shifts into something else and maybe it doesn't, right? But that's fine. And I think also kind of just putting that out there makes it like airs it out to whoever you're talking to, that it's like I'm just gonna be myself, which may be a little bit awkward. I might fumble, I might do a typo, and we're gonna keep it pushing, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I think that, and also like maybe if you're like the way in which you express yourself sexually, even if you're not shy, it may not be through words. So if you're someone who can communicate that to your partner, you could say like, you send me dirty text messages because I like to read that, and I'm going to send you pictures as we go, or I'm going to send you videos as we go. So then it doesn't even require you to talk at all. It's just like your partner says to you, I want to see your pretty ass titties or your big juicy booty, whatever, I don't know. And then you're like, yeah, take a picture of it. Yeah. And here they is. And that's how you're communicating. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be, I think part of it is understanding that whatever you're doing and whatever you're doing with your partner or whomever you're with is y'all thing. So it doesn't have to look like what I'm doing or what y'all are doing. It's like y'all thing. So maybe it's they gonna send you text messages, I'm sending videos, text message video, text message video. Okay. And that's fine.
I love it. So find what your sexting language is. It might not be. Someone said sexy memes, like that could be maybe your response, and then maybe you could, I guess maybe play with it, but really what I'm hearing too is show up authentically. So I know if there's any women here who like me, maybe you felt some pressure sometimes, like you said, to be this type of vixen that maybe you see on TV and movies and stuff, but if that's not authentically you, show up as who you are, and that's always the sexiest. Correct. It's always sexy for you to just show up, and accepting and loving yourself is hella sexy. When somebody walks into a room and they're like, boom, period, sis, this is it. Everybody's like, oh, okay, hey. Like, it's always sexy. So
yeah. I think it also kind of goes into this thing of like, and I like to talk specifically to women and femmes about this, is like, it also is, we don't want to be performative, you know, unless we're intentionally being performative, right?
Oh my gosh. Listen, there's so many women I talk to, friends, and, you know, I just talk to a lot of women because that's what I do. I exclusively talk to women. And it's almost like some women can spend their whole lives performing porn star. They're performing a version of sex and performance that is copying a version of sex and performance that isn't authentic. It's all about the gaze of a male. Right. So it's like, it's no part of it is real. Like, right. That's why, like, I can't even watch a lot of pornographic videos for that reason. If I sense and I feel that this woman is performing for the camera, or somebody told her, like, they think a man, like, I just feel like, I can't get down with that. And I feel like we need to free ourselves from that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, you know, when I have conversations with people, I ask them, is the goal of your sex or intimacy, self-pleasure, coupled or otherwise, is it pleasure, or is it performance? Or, you know, what kind of is the intention? Because if we're moving from a place of trying to create more pleasure and more intimacy, then we have to kind of put down the performance thing, which is difficult because of how we're socialized, right? And probably historically how we have shown up with our partners. You know what I mean? Like, I'm damn near 30 and I'm literally just exploring how to have sex that feels good to me and that censors me and communicates with my needs, you know what I mean? And that moves away from the performance piece. And so that's why kind of the preface of that, like the piece that informs that, is what's the intention? Is it pleasure? Okay, so what does that look like? And that means like destroying all of what already kind of exists, which is like woman sucks dick, then they have penetrative sex, then sex is over. And it's like, is that what? No. So kind of moving away from that, and I think that applies to, like, circle it back, that applies to even how we show up in our sex and, you know, erotic life digitally as well. You know what I mean? Moving away from, like, you don't gotta say to your partner over text or FaceTime or whatever, like, some porn star shit. Like, when we're doing porn, we're faking it. So you don't want to do that. Like,
right. So what would you say? Like, give me an example. Like, how would you like start one of those conversations?
so I'm gonna keep it completely honest with you. Me and my partner are goofy, so we're not doing no like big like whatever. I'm literally telling him like, you look fine as fuck with that haircut, and he's like, yeah, I'm trying to have you drag your asshole across my face to the weekend, and I'm like, yeah, I'm with the shit. It's like that's how we talk, because that's our thing. And we also like don't really do, me and my partner, we don't really do like these like intense sex thing to the point where we're like, I'm never actually sitting there masturbating when we're like, you know what I mean? Like that's not, but it's just like sexy and sexual, but it's goofy because that's a reflection of me individually, my partner individually, and us as a couple. You know what I mean?
I love that. So that's what we're hearing overall. I guess for everyone who had questions about like how do I stay connected during this time, maybe like the first step is making sure that you connected with your star player, you know, making sure you connected with yourself first and not showing up as a fake version of who you are to connect with somebody else, because that's going to just take you further from self-acceptance and self-love. And that's, you know me, I'm always going to preach that.
Right.
Do you happen to, this is an off-the-wall question, and I was like, this would be great because I'd actually love to read any Black erotica suggestions?
I don't have any Black erotica suggestions, but I will absolutely suggest pleasure activism. I don't know how to say the author's name. It's Adrienne Marie Brown, I believe, AMB. Pleasure activism to me is a really great book that gets you in the zone of how, first of all, it's kind of framed around pleasure as a form of liberation and not just censoring suffering and oppression all the time. And creating more pleasure in your life, sexual or otherwise, right? So things that just bring you joy. And I think a piece of that book that kind of plays into this conversation is not just masturbating and having sex, but also fantasizing, and that your fantasies can help kind of unpack some of the shit we've been talking about, which is like typical hetero sex. You know what I mean? Like fantasize. If you sit and think about what is sexy to you, what turns you on, what does it really look like outside of the bounds of like submissive woman, dominant woman? And maybe it is that, right? But also like break that down completely. Start fantasizing what really turns you on, you know, thinking and just imagining like, and maybe it's gonna blow your fucking mind. It'll be completely something that you're like, wow, I didn't know it's gonna be that. But that's fine. That's hot. You know what I mean? Like, so start fantasizing about pleasure outside of the categories and boxes that are kind of there. So pleasure activism, I think, is a book.
I love that. Okay, somebody asked, how do I keep the spark going with my partner and I when we're social distancing?
It's a great question, and my honest answer is perhaps you can. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of what we've kind of covered today is like being realistic and having grace with yourself and with your partner around everything that's going on. Mm-hmm. And perhaps, again, if y'all are moving from this survival mode shit, y'all it might not be spicy right now. It may not be spicy for however long this shit lasts. And like perhaps having explicit conversations around that. So what does it look like if we are long distance or we, you know, aren't together physically and we're still together as a couple, but we're not being intimate sexually? What does our relationship look like now? Is it no longer a relationship? Was that the piece that was kind of keeping us together and keeping it interesting? Do we need to redefine how our relationship looks? You know, what is the meaning that you assign to us not being sexual anymore? Does it mean that I'm not a good partner? Does it mean that you're not man enough? Like what kind of like thinking of those things and what comes up for you. I think so that would be my advice versus being like, do a FaceTime or do a sexy this or take a shower and send in pictures. Like my thing is more so of like, let's be realistic about where we're moving from, honestly, and perhaps it won't be spicy in any way, you know, and having conversation explicitly about that. But if you want like tips, you know, we could talk about FaceTime and stuff like that, but
no, that's such a brilliant answer. I definitely wasn't expecting that answer, but I love that answer because that aligns with what I feel that people need to be doing overall during this time anyway. It's not bulldozing towards some sense of normalcy, but like actually being like, whoa, what's happening here? And so if you're looking, so I guess the answer in my mind, I'm thinking too, if you and a partner are not like in the same living space during this whole thing and you guys feel yourselves disconnected in some way, investigating what that's about before trying to put a band-aid on it and fix it, so to speak.
Right. So investigating it, and then maybe the secondary thing to that is completely redefining what connectedness looks like.
Wow, ambulance, we hear you. Y'all hear this? They're so excited. I'm not glad. Oh, somebody's doing a birthday drive, but oh, that's so cute, guys. They got the people to come bring a fire truck to wish somebody happy birthday.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, that is so cute. They have balloons and everything. Oh my god, that is so cute. It's so cute. But they love
that's being creative.
That's creative. I'm mad because I had a birthday and Ace didn't bring me not one fire truck. Bruh.
Oh my god.
Oh, I think one of them is a firefighter. One of the neighbors. I don't fucking talk to people that much, but anyway. Can you hear me over them?
I can hear you, yeah.
Okay. That is super cute. That is so, I hope Ace saw that. That is so, I'm emotional now. I don't know what I was saying, Raquel. What was I talking about?
Kind of redefining like connectedness with the absence of spiciness.
Got it. Yes. It's just investigating what is there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know how they say like, oh, you don't, like if you're in a marriage, you don't realize who you're married to till sometimes like you go through like a crazy situation that completely shifts the sense of normalcy. Yeah. And in some ways that's a gift for the relationship because it really asks you to both identify, now who am I? Now who are we? And so maybe that could be something.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it gives people an opportunity to have conversations that they wouldn't otherwise have and to redefine things in ways that they otherwise wouldn't have to because we're not forced into doing that. And I don't think that means that people can't be sexual and erotic and whatever else. It just looks different, which requires conversation, which in my opinion is better anyway, because a lot of couples are just doing what they think they're supposed to do and kind of don't even get to the place to break out of that. So like this, especially like for women who are dating men who it's like we're just doing that same shit over again, this is a really great opportunity to be like, let's redefine erotic sexiness and sensuality for us. And then when the quarantine is over, it can be like, let's take that into the physical part, which means we're not just doing missionary and doggy style, like we can do other things.
Oh, that could be a cool spin on it too. I just think it's so cute. I'm sorry. They have like 50 cars I hear all riding around. I'm jealous because I had a birthday and nobody drove by. And my friends live here. None of them drove by. Ace didn't even get outside the car and drive by. I feel hurt and disrespected. I'm gonna piss them off. Be like, I'm like, oh, they had 18 cars outside. But yes, I think that this could be like, you know, we're in bizarre circumstances. So sometimes to me, that's the foundation for miracles too. So maybe this could be a situation where you're like, you know what, we're going to get to know parts of each other that we maybe would not have if this did not happen. And that is going to translate into sex that we never had that did not happen before this.
Yeah, for sure. And I also just think it's good insight for people to reflect on what things mean to them. Like, what does it mean if you're in a partnership that sex no longer happens? What does that mean? What does that mean to you? Like, what does that mean to you? I think that's just a good, insightful, introspective.
We get it! Happy birthday! You still here talking?
I can't hear it.
Oh my God, it's so loud. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me because I'm like,
yeah, I can't hear it.
Perfect. God is blessing you right now. Hey, I'm sorry, Raquel. I'm
okay.
paying attention now. I promise I'm not distracted by the 30 cars outside my house. Guys, this is real. And then, this was lit too. You know what? No, before we go there. Okay, so then, do you have any tips for how to transition out of this? So when we start opening things back up, people start going back outside. You was in this weird situation. Do you have any tips for people who are dating or getting, I don't want to say dating. What I mean are engaging in sexual relationships with people. Is there any tips? I don't even know if we can give tips. I mean, how do we all know, but how do we get back in transition safely?
Yeah, the only thing that really comes to mind, I guess, would be understanding that things may not go back to what you considered a sense of normal. And so leaving space for creativity and newness and things that are unfamiliar in that department, you know, I don't know that when this is over, there will be like a reset to before. I think it may be a completely new thing. And so kind of just like leaving space for the exploration of that. And then I also think just, you know, and this is something that I've thought about too, is like being mindful. How do I say this? Like being mindful of not being impulsive in a way that perhaps can make you vulnerable. Because I know that when,
what do you mean?
So like when this is over, we all gonna want to go out and twerk and turn up and suck dick and da, 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 da. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm gonna just go get gangbanged or something because I'm so bored and horny, and now I'm gonna be free for all, right? So which gangbangs are totally fine, right? However, I'm just saying, being mindful of how the freedom, right, the freedom again may lead you to do something that is risk-taking behavior that could possibly put you in a vulnerable situation. Not to say don't do it or you can't do it or shame on you, just to say, to be mindful of like, now you've got this ability to go do it. What are you going to do, and how might it affect you in a way that is risky?
That's interesting. I think I saw Angela on here, but it's so crazy how these seemingly unrelated topics all have similar answers. Angela, she's a financial planner, and we were talking about finances, and it's
going to buy a bunch of shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same principle. And then if I was going to talk about being safe with your body, like it's all the same principle. It's like, don't keep your money. No, don't be rushing out to buy a whole bunch of stuff because
right.
And don't rush out to have a whole bunch of sex because you said, and don't rush out to go to the mall, because you miss it, and get your nails and get your hair done. Like it really all might be, you know what? It always relates to the spiritual for me. Everything always comes back. This is all about not edging out of that uncomfortable space so quickly. And I think that could get us into a lot of trouble in general. And like sitting in this space of being like, I am uncomfortable. Whether that be financially, I'm saving and therefore I'm not projecting a certain wealth. That makes me uncomfortable. Or I'm not getting, I'm not distracting myself with conversation and the sex in the way that I normally do. So I'm like hearing my thoughts and I don't know if I like this. Like I can't distract myself with life. So I'm facing a lot of things that I normally wouldn't. And like, I really think like there's real beauty. Angela and I talked about the idea of like, you just go on a financial diet for just a little while. You sit in that uncomfortable space and it has a long-term gain. Same thing for this, right? Even on a mental health perspective, I really do think that a lot of the impulse for opening up parts of the country is people wanting to run from sitting
bored
with themselves. And the circumstances that they have created in their life. And if we run from it, we never solve it.
Right. And I think that realistically, because I like to just be real with people, it's not so much that people are not going to go be impulsive. Certainly they are. I just would like to name that so that people can name that and then be aware of how that informs their decision.
Can you explain that really quickly? Because I think this is like, it's been such a profound concept in my relationship where I tell Ace all the time, like, it's like, why did that feel good? Why did that feel good? I said, well, because you put a name on it. Like naming something. I just want to sit on that and you explain what that because you guys in here might be able to use it in your relationship. A great concept.
Yeah. So I think that at least how I conceptualize naming things is that I am both recognizing that whatever the concept is internally. So I've had some introspection or I've had a thought about it and it has made sense to me. And then it is also like using my voice to make it clear whatever I'm thinking about. So there's like that piece of it, which I think is really grounding and centers yourself in terms of having clarity, or maybe not having clarity, but naming I don't have clarity, right? And then using your voice to kind of explain yourself. There's that. I think it also allows you to make sense of what you're doing, even if you don't do something differently, but it helps you make sense of it.
And I love that you said that because that takes the judgment out of it. So like naming it in this context would be like, I am going to go ahead and distract myself with sex, and it might not be the highest decision, but that's what I'm doing, and that's just it. Naming it. Right. You said, hey, this is what I'm doing, and not shaming yourself and not judging yourself, but just understanding that that's what you're doing. I feel like that's the first step of self-awareness, is being able to name these
raising insights. And I mean, there's also like, I think when you externalize things also, depending on like what the topic is, right? When I talk to people about like negative emotions that they don't like, right? Like jealousy or whatever. I like to tell people to externalize that. So it's not so much that you are a jealous person, you're full of jealousy. It's like jealousy lives within you or lives next to you or besides you or whatever, you know, like externalize a little bit so that there's some space from it so that you can like get to know it. Why is it showing up? Like in this scenario, like why is my impulsiveness to go suck 3 dicks sitting here? Not so much that you can't suck the dick, right? Because my thing is we're going to be realistic. However, just having the insight. And I also think that naming things in the context can be specific, but like in a partnership, right? If I don't name my needs, if I don't say what I'm feeling, I don't name that, I'm almost doing my partner a disservice because then they don't have the opportunity to respond, to change their behavior, whatever. So it's like, if I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, why is this nigga doing this and this and this, but I'm not saying it, he don't even know that maybe he's doing it or he don't know how to do it differently. And then I'm not even like allowing the relationship space to change. And again, that can apply for many different things, but just in this context of like relationships.
I love that. And then, okay, so the last tip for solo, and then I have 2 questions for people who are coupled in relation here. But someone said, any tips on manifesting during sex? And this is like, I love this topic, but I'll let you answer it. But I just want to say too that you can manifest sexually, solo, or in any capacity. You don't need another person. So, but do you want me to go ahead?
Well, in terms of like manifesting, like using like sex magic type stuff. Yeah, so I'm super not an expert, so I feel like it wouldn't be my place to even like guide people or give suggestions. It's something that I have tried to just kind of dabble in terms of exploration, but I'm definitely not the authority on that, and so I don't want to like
neither am I. So I'll just drop in here. Commonly known as sex transmutation, and transmuting is just the idea that something transfers from one state to another. And so in terms of energy in your body, like they call it your chi, there's many different names for it. But in terms of your sexual energy is the most dense energy in your body. So it's very rich. And I'm trying to figure out how deep I want to go in this. I'm not going to go all the way there, but yes. So it's very rich energy in your body. So you can use it to manifest things. So, look at Ace. He would comment on that. So the way I think about manifesting sex. So sex is always manifesting something. That's either what? Children or what? It can manifest shame. It can manifest guilt. It can manifest, it's always manifesting something, a connection. That's what you do. So the easiest way that I think about it is first you have to be in the right conditions. So it has to be a healthy, safe sexual encounter if you want to manifest something for yourself. Otherwise, other people could manifest, maybe you're not in the one in that scenario. I'm just going to leave it at that. So if I'm like in this situation and this is like, and this could also be solo sex, when you're about to climax, you just it's just about placing intention on it. So you just place intention, like I am going to manifest peace and harmony in my house. I'm going to manifest X amount of dollars. I don't know, I'm going to manifest a new job position. And literally you just think about that as you're climaxing. So all that strong, powerful energy that's being released is being sent towards that intention. So yeah, that's my thing. Just play with it and try it. And if you want to like Google it, you can Google sex transmutation.
I love that. I mean, I love that even as something to like ground you in your body and just like in terms of feeling good in your body, you know, like maybe not even manifesting like material things or whatever, but just like, I deserve this. I deserve pleasure, you know, thinking of things like for yourself as well.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Okay, so now for my people who are with people in isolation, everybody's like, oh, you guys are so lucky because you have somebody with you. Yes. However, the questions that I got all felt like kind of the same thing. So women were like, how do I feel sexy and novel with my partner when I'm literally with them 24 hours a day? And what do? There's no change. Like I was saying that to Ace, like I love Esther Perel. If you guys are interested in sex, I know you have it, Mating in Captivity. I knew it. Yeah. If you are interested in intimacy and partnership, Esther Perel is the GOAT. She has Red Table Talks with Jada. She's just every time her TED Talk, her books are great. And so she describes like the thing with desire and monogamy sometimes are on opposite ends of the spectrum. Like the things that contribute to desire are like novelty, the unknown. Like, you know, I might not see you again. I don't know what you're going to do next. Yeah. I just met you. Like all of these things that are opposite of monogamy, which is like schedule. I need to know that you're going to be here. I need to know that I can count on you. Being predictable every day. You took the kids. You picked them up. You made them lunch. This was your, like, that is not sexy. Like, you know, sex is all about the newness and this desire. And like, so desire breeds off opposite ends of the spectrum. So like right now I think this is like a kind of will be an interesting experiment for a lot of couples is like, so how do I have newness right now when I'm not doing my makeup to go nowhere? I'm not changing my clothes to go anywhere. I don't even get a chance to miss you. Yeah. You here all day. You don't get to go, like, I don't even miss you. And I don't even get to see you be in your element. And even Esther Perel describes that as sometimes you're most sexually attracted to your partner, not when they're doing anything sexual, but when they're, going back to the beginning of our conversation, when they're doing the thing that is most authentic to who they are. Yeah. Like the thing that made you attracted to them, like seeing your wife speak, you know, or seeing your wife at work conduct a meeting, or me seeing Ace in the studio, like seeing him record, seeing him travel. Like when Ace is traveling, I don't know what it is. When he's posting his pictures, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that's me. Yeah. You know, so what do we do without all that?
Yeah, I think that the two things that stick out from the book and in general that make a lot of sense for this scenario are distance and autonomy. And distance can be emotional distance, physical distance, whatever, but creating distance between you and your partner. And I think for a lot of us, part of what informs our partnerships is closeness. I got to be close to you. I need to know everything about you. Tell me everything. Be under me. And it's like, you all need distance in part to create some of that desire, right? You need a little bit. And I think distance also speaks to autonomy, which is we are two different people, right? When you have partnership, most of us are like, we're one and we've become one. And again, when we differentiate that you are you and you are me, some of the things that are different about us, and different not in the sense of like, you like this and I like this, but like differentiation, like I am a separate autonomous human and you are two. Those are kind of the things that, speaking to Esther Perel, kind of create desire, right? And of course that's difficult in some of these circumstances, but it's not impossible, right? And I think that again, having that explicit conversation with your partner about like, we need to figure out, and I think also Esther speaks about like intentional distance, right? And that can be kind of what is happening now in quarantine is like, let's talk about how we can create some distance here. How I can be reminded that you are this person, I am this person, right? You're all up under each other all day, sweaty, stinky. There is not much differentiation right now. There is not much, I am autonomous, you are autonomous. It's like we're in this together and we're depressed. Right. So figuring out ways to kind of create that autonomy and distance, whether that be physical or emotional, reminding each other that there is some mystery left or whatever, some risk, which, you know, kind of speaks to everything you just said, which goes back to the book for sure.
And I will drop a simple tip in here too, is I got for my bridal shower, somebody gave me these discussion cards and I don't have them in my hand right now. So I don't know the name exactly, but if you just Google relationship discussion cards, I think they'll come up. But they have been it's been so cool. It's so weird. You would not think like it would be that fun or anything. You're like, whatever, I know you. I know a lot of things about you. But it's like off the wall questions like, what's one thing as a child that you did all the time that you wish you could do now? Right. Or drawing. Ace was like, oh, you like to draw? I didn't know you like to draw. You know what I'm saying? Or what's your embarrassing story about something, or just whatever. So that too, because that also invited a level of newness or a level of novelty of like, I didn't know that about you. And sometimes we get into a place of, I know everything about this person and there's no more learning there.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. And I think also maybe for folks who have the energy to try some of this stuff, right? Because we have also just like touched on the reality that like maybe shit is not going to be sexy and spicy, and that's okay too. Right. For folks that are having the energy, I think another thing that would kind of create some of this distance and newness and separation is, when you change something small in your functioning and behavior, it kind of creates ripple effects with all of the folks who are around you. So whether you want to do it intentionally and like tell your partner, I'm about to do something different, or you want to just surprise them in terms of your functioning, I think that creates distance as well. So if you're typically the one who like initiates everything, who's always like, I'm going to use maybe don't do that for a couple days, see what happens, right? And again, you have to determine your partnership and what would be okay and safe and whatever. So maybe it will be an explicit conversation like, we're going to take the next 2 days, and instead of me being all over you, I'm going to just take a step back, or just do it. You know your partner better than I do. But I think that creates a sense of newness in what otherwise is monotony, right?
Okay, I'm writing down. That's a good one. I love that. Okay, we probably have 5 minutes before this live cuts off. Is there any burning questions for the sex coach? Did I say it right? The sex coach. I was like the sex therapist. No, not therapist. Sexologist Shamyara cards. Natalie, what is that? Our Moments Conversations. Thank you. That's the name of the cards. They are called Our Moments Conversations. And they also have versions with kids. They have versions for elderly. Like they have.
I love that.
And I cannot wait for the kids. I can't wait to go get the kids and do that. Cause I think it's such a cool way to learn things about your kids beyond like, what's your favorite color? What do you like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like it's for really cool. Okay, let me see if there are any things I missed. Is there any questions? Would you recommend trying online dating during this time?
Sure. I mean, why not? I think there's no reason not to. I mean, if you're kind of inclined to do that and feel like that's something you're just interested in doing, why not? I think just being mindful of how you're engaging it and how much energy you're investing into it. And, the thing, I would say the thing about online dating kind of is it gets into this, again, performative space, because we're thinking about like what pictures to post and how will I look good and and who's liking my shit and who's not or whatever. So it's like, maybe just be mindful of that, particularly if you're already in like a triggered state. You don't want to increase your feelings of like not being affirmed and validated and seen. But otherwise, it's like, why the fuck not? Yeah, go for it.
Oh, almost forgot this question. Somebody, and they asked it in here again. You're right. How am I supposed to have sex with my partner and the kids are around me 24 hours a day right now?
Yeah. So I feel like that really also depends on your living situation, right? I have no idea what folks like what their housing situation is. If there is the ability to create some separation in that, that would be the only way. I don't know what people's houses look like. But also maybe when they're sleeping, but also maybe it might not be a full-on like sex banging it out for hours. You know what I mean? It might just be like a little kiss and peck here, a little play with the nipples here, a little in the pantry playing with your pussy. Like, you know what I mean? It just might not be this. Goes back to, again, like redefining what intimacy looks like in these times. It might not be the same thing which it was before. So kind of recreating what that is and whatever your needs are. And just being realistic, because maybe it is when the kids go to sleep and then you got to bang it out or whatever. But trying to find some space and time and just being playful throughout the day certainly could be something just fun.
Yeah. And you know what? It also might be a good time to maybe readdress boundaries in the home and see, are there boundaries? Do you guys only function as parents or do you function as a couple? And what do those boundaries look like? And like, maybe they need to be addressed, maybe not. But like she said, I think.
And boundaries with your kids too, like, are you parents who have your kids sleep in the bed with you? Are you parents who talk to your kids about boundaries explicitly? Like, this is private time for us. You all are entitled to private time too. Maybe you all have some private time and they're gonna go read or fucking play games. I don't know. But like, for sure, absolutely. And I guess that also depends on like how old kids are and what they're able to like comprehend. But definitely, for sure.
Thank you, Raquel. We're gonna get cut off soon. I don't know how you deal with these weirdos in your comments. I wish it was my life. You're so good at it. You're like expert level. They're so I'm like, do you have mommy? Is it mommy or daddy issues you have? Either way, where can people find you and find out about everything you're doing?
Yeah, definitely follow me here on Instagram. I post a lot of like educational shit here. For more educational stuff, definitely follow me on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Raquel Savage.
All right, I hope you enjoyed that conversation. You can check out Raquel Savage here. And then, you know what I'm saying, you know where to find me, and I will see you on the internet somewhere.